Hey guys, how are you today? Today I want to share my perspective on this announcement from Dario Amadei. He is the CEO of Anthropic, many of you know, and he has released this announcement off the back of the discussion they had with Department of War. I just want to set the context for this announcement. Basically, Department of War, which used to be called as Department of Defense, asked Anthropic to change their contract to include two new use cases, but Anthropic refused to do that. And off the back of that, they kind of threatened Anthropic to make those changes, and this is a response from Anthropic after that. So they made this. They made this announcement after that discussion and threats. So he starts off saying that he understands the importance of using AI to defend US and other democracies and also to defeat our autocratic adversaries. Then he goes on and says that Anthropic proactively deployed models in the Department of War and other intelligence communities, and Anthropic is the first company ever to deploy latest models in the classified networks of US government. And they also say that they are the first one to deploy their models in the national laboratories. National laboratories are the laboratories where they do nuclear research and those kind of high level researches, and all those things happens in national laboratories. And Anthropic says that they are the first company to deploy models in those laboratories as well. So basically they are saying that they are kind of everywhere within the US governments and the other government organizations, and they are also the first in those things. And then they are saying that they also work to maintain the America's lead in AI, and they let go multi-million-dollar revenue to make sure America maintains the lead, because American government asked Anthropic to block access to some of the companies, block Claude access to some of the companies. Those are designated by Department of War as a Chinese military companies. That's what they are saying. So basically they're saying that they sacrificed even on the money front to maintain America's lead in AI. Then they goes on to the main crux of the issue. They are making it very clear that Anthropic understands war decisions, what need to be done and what shouldn't be done. Those kind of decisions are made by Department of War, not by Anthropic. So they never objected to any of those decisions. But then Anthropic says that in set of narrow cases, Anthropic believes that AI can undermine democratic value rather than defending it. And then they list those two cases. The first one is mass domestic surveillance. So this is an important one. So mass domestic surveillance is a easy thing with the models like Claude now. Currently, such a surveillance, surveilling individual is legal in US. You'll be able to gather information from various sources, and you'll be able to put together those information to understand what someone is up to. This is currently legal because getting to that level of information is very hard at the moment. But if you use models like Claude, you'll be able to do those kind of analysis, and creating a profile of individual is going to be much easier than what we can do manually before the era of AI. So basically such a surveillance is legal only because the laws are not caught up with rapidly growing capabilities of AI. So that's what they're saying. And they are also saying that there are some privacy concerns raised by both parties in the Congress about this surveillance. So because of that, they think it undermines the democratic value. Doing mass domestic surveillance, they're not against the individual surveillance. They are actually talking about mass domestic surveillance using AI models. They're saying that it is not in line with the democratic value, and they refuse to include that as one of the use case in their contract with government. And then the second thing is fully autonomous weapons. First, they are saying that they understand the use of partially autonomous weapons, and they also understand the importance of fully autonomous weapon. But what they are saying is the current models that we currently have are not capable enough to take human out of the loop. It is not that good yet. And if we allow fully autonomous weapons to be automated to be operated by these models, then that is not going to be good. It removes the critical judgment that are taken by highly trained professionals now. If we replace that with AI models, then that is not going to have the result that we want, because the models are not there yet. The models are not that good yet to replace human from the loop, or to remove human from the loop. So that is the second use case that the US government wants to include, or Department of War wants to include, but Anthropic says that no, they cannot do it. So because of these two reasons, Anthropic says that Department of War threatened them of two different things. First, they are saying that they are going to designate Anthropic as a supply chain risk. What is supply chain risk? If a company is labeled as supply chain risk, then what they are essentially saying is that the Department of War cannot reliably work with that company to procure what they want. Basically, that company cannot be trusted. So if a company is designated as supply chain risk, then none of the government contractors can also work with that company. So it is not just the government. Any subcontractor who works with, say, Department of War cannot use Claude or any products from Anthropic. So that is what supply chain risk means. This is a big thing. And Anthropic says that this label, or this kind of designation has never been applied to any US company before. This is the first time they are saying that they are going to designate one of the US company as supply chain risk. That is the first thing. And the second threat they are making is they are saying that they will invoke Defense Production Act to force the safeguard removal. So currently the models doesn't allow them to operate weapons fully autonomously, and also there is no way to do mass surveillance, right, as per the contract. So the Department of War says that they will invoke Defense Production Act to remove those safeguards, essentially, which means those two use cases will be included. The Department of War will use the model for those two use cases as well. Anthropic correctly points out that these two threats are inherently contradictory. On one side, they are saying that it is a supply chain risk, which means we cannot reliably work with this provider. And on the other hand, by invoking Defense Production Act, they are saying that we cannot function, or we cannot run a war, or we cannot, do our defense work without having this product. So these two are inherently contradictory. I don't know why they did that, but that is what it sounds like, and it is actually contradictory, right? So then Anthropic says that regardless of these threats, we are not going to change our position. We are not going to allow Department of War to use Claude for those two use cases mentioned above. That is what they are saying. Now, my opinion on this is actually I'm not sure about what kind of privacy law is there in US, and I don't want to go into the details of it. If government wants to use mass domestic surveillance using AI, it is up to that government. They can actually do so if they want to do it, and if there is no legal blocking to do that, then they can do it. Because if currently it is legal, and if they find a faster way to do it, then I don't have any problem with it. Yes, it raises some privacy concerns, but aren't there any privacy concern in what they already do, right? So I don't strongly agree with this point. If US government wants to do it and there is no legal issue with that, then they can do it. And they have pointed out here that it is already happening, but it is happening manually. So I don't see any legal issues here. And in terms of democratic values, I don't know. I don't want to comment on this, because all the democratic countries are maintaining all the democratic values. If we go by democratic value, what they already do, even if we do the domestic surveillance even on one person, it is against the democratic value, right? So because they already do it, I don't see any major problem with it. If they want to speed it up or automate it, it is just a different way to get to the same result. in a much faster way. So I don't see much bigger objection from my side to this mass domestic surveillance. But what I agree with Anthropic is this fully autonomous weapons. As we know, the models that we currently have, even for the coding that we use these models, we cannot let these models do things on its own. We still need to be in control. Humans still need to be in control, because sometimes it will come up with some stupid solution for a problem, or it might come up with some really silly solution for a problem. So we need to be in control. Humans need to be in control to make sure what it does is correct. And Anthropic rightly points this out, because the models are still not sophisticated enough to take human out of the loop. If we use these models to operate fully autonomous weapons, then it is going to be a huge risk. It is going to be a huge risk because we don't know what these models will do. So, and they suggested to work with them to add additional guardrails and safety measures, but it looks like they are not ready to. Department of War is not ready to do that. I don't know why, but having fully autonomous weapon in the control of current AI models are not good. It has to be improved further before we could reach that point. So on this one, I agree with the objection from Anthropic. And what I don't like is actually the mechanism they are using. The mechanism, Department of War is using to make Anthropic comply with the request is not something that I have seen from any developed countries, right? So if they are threatening a company to, submit to their request, then that is not a good way to go, right? So, yes, they have provided the safety and economic condition for the company to develop, but at the same time, if they are actually making these kind of threats, it is not going to be a good situation or platform for new companies in the US. Okay, that is my take on it. No company should be threatened like this. So that is what I feel. Yeah, so that is what I think about this. Okay, so I just shared my 2 cents here. I hope this is useful. Thank you.